This video is requested by my sister-in-law. If this video bangs, I owe you a big gratitude. Before we get into the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. I'm almost a YouTube member, so please help a young man out. Be much appreciated. Ultimately, this video is kind of just to, one, give women a point of view of what a man's view of this world or growing up is like, and then as well as the other side of the coin being for any person out there as far as young men go or just men go in general. Know your story is either similar or you feel the same way, but ultimately just to bridge the gap. Like I said, make sure each party understands, men feel understood, women get a different viewpoint on things, because obviously men and women are very different. Men experience things one way, women experience things the other way. Maybe this video might be able to bridge the gap and help both parties understand each other a little bit more. And like I said, for men to not feel alone or feel like they've been through XYZ alone. But ultimately, this video is about just over-sexualization of women. Just personal experience for me, I would say as a kid, not even a kid, but just like as a preteen around 12 years old, that's kind of when things took a turn. One, it's like peak puberty, as well as like that's when I overheard people in school. I was in 6th grade. I remember the day vividly. I was in 6th grade and I remember these guys talking about the hub and like all these websites and stuff and talking about beating off. And then that's when the floodgates just opened. From there, obviously just on and off for years as I'm growing up as an adolescent, as a preteen, teenager, middle school, high school, just for a long time, even as a young adult. You just kind of always revisit the hub whenever you get those urges. And ultimately, there's some studies that say that's perfectly fine. There's some studies that say it isn't. And then it also depends on your background as an individual. If you come from a religious background, then it's just ultimately double wrong. And then if you don't come from a religious background, like I said, it's just how you feel type of thing. Speaking for myself, I did come from a religious background, still am a part of that religious background. But ultimately, what that kind of led to was me seeking out relationships to pretty much, not for the best intentions, not to really be in love or anything like that. And I'm talking about like as a person in school, like seeking out relationships to pretty much just get your rocks off and all that type of stuff. And luckily for me, like looking back at it, I mean, living it sucked, but looking back at it, I'm very glad as a young person, like as a kid, middle school, high school, I was nothing special. I wasn't the most attractive. I wasn't the most athletic. I'm very glad I was just a regular, average looking kid, similar to like Marge from Welcome to Derry. It's not an ugly person, but it's just very average, very regular, nothing special. Not to disrespect that girl. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Like no one was looking out for me. No play was coming my way. And I'm very fortunate that that's the life that I kind of had. Because knowing myself, if people were throwing themselves at me, I'd be at a completely different place in my life. Just flat out point blank period. I feel like I'd be in a different point in my life. So I'm glad I got decent looking as an adult and not while I was young. But like I was saying, ultimately everything as far as the hub goes and all that, you just become more overly sexual than needed, and you just tend to look at women as just objects for your pleasure, not necessarily as human beings or as people. That's kind of my experience. That's how I felt growing up. Like I said, seeking out those relationships to get my rocks off. And like I said, I came from a religious background and I've had multiple relationships since then. I've always been in a relationship since I was like 16. And yeah, I would say looking back at things, I would always try to, like I said, get my rocks off on top of try to be a good partner, but ultimately looking out for my own interests, which is very selfish, obviously, because you end up doing things for very selfish reasons. You start making women either do things they don't want to do, don't feel comfortable doing, or you just always want more. You see something on the screen and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try that. You see something, hey, let's do this, hey, da, da, da. It just ends up never being enough. You ultimately make your partner feel like they're just an object. You've probably been told that before if you've been in relationships, if you kind of presented that issue to them. And it takes a long time. I don't really know a time period for everyone. I feel like everybody's time period will be different, or when they realize they really don't have the discipline they do need to have in regards to women, or just like de-discipline. But it's very important. One, it keeps you out of trouble as far as like stepping out on your partners. It also helps you realize, hey, your partner is an object. This is a person that needs love, needs time, needs attention. Really, I feel like it's a small percentage of women that really, that's probably their favorite part of the relationship. I feel like most women, that's probably the lowest part. We just need to have control as young men. Because like I said, we end up doing more harm than not. Like ultimately staying away from the hub, like it's probably the best thing for you. One, there's groups called like NoFap, semen retention, all that type of stuff. It kind of helps you realize, hey, this is like energy you're giving out. There's even some people who talk very positively about it, like Kevin Gates.
I used to be watching porn, talking about, man, that nigga killing that whole son. She, you know, and I used to sit there and masturbate and watch porn. I used to sneak and do it till one time his brother had told me, he say, you know that's self-mutilation. He said, you celebrating you jacking off to another man's success.
Oh.
It's other ways to stimulate yourself mentally. And then he started telling me about sex transmutation, where you could take that sexual energy and channel it into your workouts, into your craft, into your music. You would channel it into whatever it is that you focused on at the time. And that's when I was like, that's crazy. Like if you pleasure-driven, you develop addictions. If you purpose-driven, you develop riches.
As ironic as that is, like I feel like when it comes to that stuff, he's very knowledgeable outside of like the clips.
Free my dog out the slammer. Love my children and they mama. Stay clutching my hammer. They say they killers and I'm one of them. No love for the weak. Beefing with my chick while I'm in jail. Trying not to click out on restriction. Can't make bail. Mine's it gone with all this well. I ain't called in a minute. Ain't balled in a minute. Can't wait to see them stars in the ceiling. Free all of my hills.
Because when you get that off your mind and you actually start to just focus on that type of discipline, I promise you'll have a clearer mind. You'll have more energy. You'll feel more productive. You'll just feel better. I promise you, without a shadow of a doubt. If you're a person that struggles with this, or you can't go a couple days, you can't this or that, go a week without visiting the hub and giving into your urges. If you're in a relationship that's completely different, then obviously whatever is best for you and your partner. But if you're a single person and you're a person that you feel like you're either addicted or you feel like you do it more than you need to, then I would just encourage you to stop for a minute and just see how you feel. So I promise you will notice a difference for sure. On top of, you just start to see things a certain way after you stop seeing women as objects. You stop treating them like objects. Especially if you're a person in a relationship and it's been expressed to you that, hey, you're making me feel that way. You're always looking at something that's somewhat borderline extreme, and then you actually try to do it in real life, and you're seeking out the opportunity to do it in real life, and it just comes across as weird. On top of, you also have to think about how your partner would feel in that situation too. Again, obviously, you know your partner, it's 50-50. Some might not care. They might be in the party where they don't care. Some might feel a little bit insecure, feel that, hey, well, I'm here, why are you doing that? That type of situation. Everyone knows their situation, everyone knows their partner, but again, it's important to humble yourself, kind of step out and see how you're making people feel, how you're looking at the world. Because if you're walking around, you walk in a room, you see a bunch of women, you're like, oh, I would do this to her, I would do this to her, I'll do this to her. It's a little crazy. You probably cross that line, or you need to pull things back. You need to develop a little bit more discipline in that regard. And this video isn't to knock anybody, because like I said, everyone's going to change at their own rate. Everyone's going to realize where they're at and realize whether or not it is a problem or isn't a problem. The video is not to like bull anybody. I just feel like I said, it's just been so normalized to like visit the hub and get your rocks off, and people just saying that's completely normal, which again, depends on which party you're in. I'm in the party that, hey, I feel like this is more harmful than it is not. And I would encourage anybody to, try to stop. Go as long as you can without it. If you relapse, perfectly fine. Just keep going. At the end of the day, you're gonna feel a lot better. I promise you will. Your mind's gonna be a lot clearer. You're gonna look at things from a different perspective. You're gonna treat people better. treat your partners better, treat women a lot better. You wouldn't be over sexualizing them, making people feel a lot more comfortable. There's just way more positives than there are negatives than abandoning the hub. You know what I mean? For the women who are on the other side of the stick, it's one of those things where if it bothers you, it's obviously a sucky situation, especially if you have expressed that it bothers you to your partner. But I promise you, the overwhelming majority is not necessarily any malicious intent towards you. It's just they've been living, because you have to think, they've been living this way and having this mind for X amount of years. It's not going to change tomorrow. It's not going to change in a week. It's not going to change in a month. It takes 18 weeks to build a habit, so it's going to take a while. And like I said, you also have to wait on that person to make that choice for themselves. And again, there's no time limit on that either. So it could come to a situation where like, oh, this guy doesn't love me. This guy doesn't care about me. He doesn't care how I feel. I wouldn't necessarily say that. Like, it just boils down to time. You're asking somebody to change something that they've had one way for so long. So I just say give that person a little bit of grace, be a little bit more patient, be a little bit more understanding to that person. Again, you know your threshold, you know what you could put up with, you know what you can tolerate, do everything within reason, but I wouldn't say it's always malicious. On top of, I feel like a lot of men in this situation do want to do better. It's just time. It just takes time. It takes patience. It takes failing and getting back up. It takes time to overcome these type of habits. It takes time to overcome this type of thinking. To put a bow on the whole topic, like I said, it's up to young men to realize where they're at in life, what needs to change, what's okay and what's not. And it also takes women to realize, hey, some people have been doing this for a long time. It's not going to change overnight. I need to be a little bit more patient, need to give a little bit more grace within reason. But the overall message, men, try your best to stay away from the hub. Women, be patient. Be a little bit more understanding. I understand it could be hard. Men, I understand it could be hard to leave that alone, but it's something that works best out for all parties involved. Because who's going to argue against making everyone feel better? Who's going to argue against, hey, over-sexualizing women isn't wrong? Who's going to argue that? Nobody. So, again, everybody do your best. It's a long road. The light is at the end of the tunnel. Everyone can see it. Everyone go for it.